start again with my presentation. I had this little slide my friend gave me just yesterday, and along with the idea with quantified self, you know, just giving reference to something. I think the idea with any kind of disease or any kind of trouble that we all go through, we've got to remember this little slide, to never give up. I mean, you know, to become smart and to try to find new ways to fix ideas and to conquer through things. So I think it's vitally important that we don't stop, we don't give up, and it just never does, because at the end of the day, if you never give up, you will conquer. This lecture, I'll be basically telling you about my discovery about a specific autoimmune disease called Ankylosing Spondylitis, or AS for short, and how I took medicines like Enbrel, and how I stopped using it because it was only taking care of one issue and not the main issue. So in order to find out the AS cure, you have to actually go through 6 main steps to kind of drill down, and these are the major things that you kind of need to do. So the first one is to understand exactly what ankylosing spondylitis is.
For 16 years, Dr. Gary Vilk has practiced and taught emergency medicine from the perspective of an ER physician and as a first response doctor.
Ankylosing spondylitis presents in a number of different areas. Almost universally are the sacroiliac joints, which are affected basically 100% of the time, and that's part of the diagnosis of the disease. The lumbosacral region is diagnosed about 50% of the time in patients. The rib-spine junction, that's the area where the ribs meet the spine in the back, that's about 70% of the time. Hips and shoulders are involved about 30% each. The neck is involved 3/4 of the time, and eyes are involved almost 40% of the time. At times it will even cause increased curvature of the spine to the point where people can't look up or forward, and it can even become what's called like a bamboo spine. This is a normal spine, the thoracic region in a patient without any ankylosing spondylitis. And what you're seeing here is the normal disc spaces. Again, no calcification, nice clean discs in between each of the vertebral bodies. Here you see the calcification of an AS patient. It's one long bone. It's calcified all the way up, and again, it looks a bit like bamboo. Again, the name bamboo spine.
Can anybody take a guess on how much this stuff costs per month? A month supply? Anybody?
5,000.
2,000. Yeah, it's one of the cheaper ones. Took this stuff for 9 years, and I'm going to take one out. Everybody needs to see this. So it's a syringe, and what you do is take this and you jab it in your thigh twice a week for the rest of your life. I don't know about you, but that wasn't fun for me for 9 years. It cost me $215,000 with insurance costs too. So thank God insurance was around. But the hardest part about this is it only took care of the symptoms. It never took care of the root cause. So I had learned in early January of 2012 these different steps on how to take care of the underlying cause of the problem. And so what I did was I did the next step of it, which is called research. And so I learned that the autoimmune system is actually a warning system. It actually is not a disease. So imagine like a siren. If you just silence a siren, it's still not going to take care of the root problem or what's ever going on. So the way that people are combating these things this day is actually through diet. It turns out that one of the most popular diets that are out there is called the no-starch diet. And the way that works is there's this bad bacteria, it's a bad boy out there. It's called the Klebsiella. And what it is that it's in your digestive system and it eats little holes throughout your digestive system. And so your autoimmune system comes in and it says, okay, let me go ahead and fix that stuff. The problem is those same holes that it's creating is creating those same kind of, it looks similar to those same holes that are throughout your body. So your autoimmune system is completely out of whack. So you'll have pains that will jump from, like you saw in the video, from your shoulders to your back, to your neck, And it's never the same every day. So what the no-starch diet does is that it says don't eat starches, because the Klebsiella actually only feeds on starches. So if you don't give it starches, the Kleb can't live. If the Klebsiella can't live, guess what? The autoimmune system doesn't need to do what it needs to do. So that whole underlying issue of the Klebsiella is gone. Autoimmune system is back to normal. This has worked out well for many people. In fact, when I did my initial research, it was the most popular way of tackling this disease through this kind of diet. Of course, it worked for me, but it was a good start. What happened was that I actually learned more types of diets like this, the specific carbohydrate diet, the low residue diet, the GAPS diet. There's so many different ones that are out there, but the same commonality between all of them was this: no breads, no flours, no grains. When you don't introduce that, you don't introduce gluten into your life, you don't introduce all kinds of other issues that are associated with these things. And so this has worked out much better for me. On top of that is the whole idea of pesticides. You guys have all heard about organic and non-organic, and how organic is the same thing as conventional. Well, all organic means is they don't have pesticides that are in conventional foods. So you're not having all these things that are heavily processed, and because you're not having that, your autoimmune system doesn't go out of whack. So by eating organic, you're eating one of the most natural states out there. So I eat more of an organic type diet. Again, no breads, flours, or grains, and a few other different types of foods out there. And then finally, having supplements to rebuild your diet. So because you're so deficient in certain things, you need to have supplements that completely can boost you right back up. Now, to know what kind of supplements you need, always talking with physicians and naturopaths and doctors is always a great thing. But I highly recommend step 3, which is getting tested. There are 3 major tests that I went through that did phenomenal work for me and has done phenomenal work for my friends too. The first being a Cyrex test, and then what that is a gluten sensitivity reactive test. So let's say you have some quinoa or some sort of grain. It actually, through this blood test, says, okay, we're going to test these on your blood cells, and if it reacts to it, don't eat that food. So you get the list back. It's pretty easy to understand. You don't eat the food, you feel better. And that's exactly what happened to me. That's what happened with my friends, and it's been a good test so far. Second test is that now you're taking things away. Well, what do you need to actually have within your diet? That would be the metametrics test. Now that's a much harder test to deal with. You will need a physician or somebody who can be able to understand all the technical terms with it. And what that is a vitamin and nutrition deficiency test. For me personally, I learned I needed starch in my diet, but I needed specific types of starch. And mine turned out being rice and potatoes. So it wasn't the grains, but the rice and potatoes worked out really well for me. And I had my first cup of rice in like months. I took a nap, I woke up, and it was like a new man. That's how important it was getting from that test to the actual results. So then, once you kind of got this game plan going on a little bit, you got to go on to step number 4, and that's exercise and chiropractic care. Now, as you saw in the video with the man looking forward, well, what happens is that his spine continuously goes out of line. A good chiropractor can be able to realign that, and they have a thing called subluxation, which is basically minor movements within the body, and they realign your spine. And it works really well so that your body doesn't keep continuing to move forward. The only caveat to this thing is that if you have high levels of inflammation, I do not suggest having a chiropractor because as they're adjusting you, it's just too painful to deal with. The number one thing, though, that really has worked out well for me is swimming exercises. I cannot tell you how much improvement I've gone through by doing different types of swimming exercises. I started with this thing called an aqua jogger. And an aqua jogger is basically a flotation device around your waist. And what you do with that is you jog as fast as you can in the water, but you don't deal with the compression that you normally do with gravity and running and things like that. It's a wonderful rehab device. It costs like 20 bucks and it's great to use. And so once you get used to that, you step up to more things, like you can do push-ups on the steps, getting up and down on the ladder, and then you eventually get the harder things. Like for me right now, I'm treading water. And I don't know if you guys tread water a lot, but I find that to be really hard to do. At about a minute and a half of treading water, I'm bruising. So it's very, very effective, and it's worked out well. So step 5 is then finally creating a game plan for everything here. I highly recommend before anybody starts an autoimmune protocol like this that they get a good support group. My parents specifically have helped me out tremendously. I had some very, very difficult times, and I'll be able to explain this later about all what I did through this protocol. But they got me through some of the darkest times. Having a good core of friends who help you out when you're having rough days, you know, there are days you can't get out of bed. And that was in my case, and I had people to help me out. And then on a spiritual level, I really relied on God to be able to get me through so many difficult times. And so I highly recommend, you know, on a spiritual, mental, and physical level, having a good support group to help you out. The next thing is making sure the medication that you're currently on, you don't get off cold turkey. I did, and I had crashed. And I'll explain that in a little bit. But slowly get off medications, especially anti-inflammatories and things that are helping out your symptoms. Because what they're doing is they're putting things at bay of other symptoms that can kind of happen with your body. So it's keeping things in check while your body's healing itself. And then finally, for the creating the game plan, is always have professional, holistic health and medical health. They both do work well together. One doesn't win over the other. Having a good combination and listening to what they have to say, because they have patients who are going just through the same things as you are. They know what they're talking about, but use them as a guideline because they only have a few minutes with them or an hour with them. You know, you are your own best doctor. You're recording stuff. Things are working with your body. You have the most vested interest within your own body. So make sure that you trust your body and trust your instincts along with the professional help that you get. So then in the final step, we have to document your experience. Now, I created this blog. I didn't expect everybody to do what I did, but I do expect people to record their data in a book, anything that they can be track, quantify. Because what you're going to find out is you'll see a cycle of things happening, how you have gone from one plateau to the other. And so what that does is it's a recording of all that. You don't keep falling backwards because it's something you didn't remember last year or 6 months ago or whatever. So always have a good track history. Also, when you go through an autoimmune protocol, because you're eating so clean, you're going to have to cook a lot more at home. So I recommend having a good cookbook list that you make of foods that are safe for you. I have my recipes over here. You can click on the recipes link, it's there. And it's the safe foods that I can basically eat, and they're delicious. Got there's one recipe called raw donut rolls that I've made. It seems to be the party stopper. They're just really good and really healthy for you. And then, again, finally, just making sure that everything's kind of based out of history and that you keep moving on and don't stop. Just don't stop doing it, because it's very, very important. Okay, so now everybody knows the 6 steps. Let me talk about how I dealt with the 6 steps and what I went through. So in 2003, I started taking Enroll, you know, the twice a week, shot in the leg kind of stuff. Only took care of the symptoms. Now remember, if it's something only taking care of the symptoms and not the root cause, well, what's happening? That root cause is still continuously getting worse and worse and worse. You're only taking care of the end product, and you're not taking care of what really needs to be taken care of. So for about 9 years, that was running rampant throughout my body. So I had to go through a lot of stuff. So on January 14th of 2012, I started this blog, started the whole 100% health lifestyle, and I stopped Enroll on February 7th, 2012. Now, 4 weeks after that, I started to get the symptoms. And to make it, it's hard to even look at these because of all the stuff I went through. But here's the list of stuff I went through. I developed canker sores, massive amounts of inflammation. You might know this, Dr. Stevens, was my set rate was 130. Yeah, it was one of those where the ND looked at me and he goes to my parents, he had said to them, everything he's going through, he's not faking. It hurts that much. Getting out of bed hurts that much. So I had this unbelievably cool, stiff neck. Could barely move it. So much so I almost got wrecked once because I couldn't turn my neck enough. Again, I had shoulder blade pain that was throbbing so much that you couldn't even go to sleep. It took you a while just for everything to settle in. Sorry, I have to look through this because there's a lot. Swollen chest, ribs, swollen ankles. I had thinning hair. I woke up at least 2 to 5 times a night, so never really could sleep. I was underweight and I was anemic. In fact, it got so bad about 7 weeks later, I actually had a mental breakdown. It was the darkest time throughout this whole process. And that support group that I told you about, I didn't have my parents. I'm not sure what I would have done at that point. But it isn't how you get down, it's how you get up, and you never stop. And with the support of my parents, loved ones, family, and friends, I was able to get through it. And I developed this blog post in the middle of one of these nights, around 2:15, 3 o'clock, looking up. It's called I Know Superman. And it's a complete admission to needing medicine and picking the lesser of two evils. I knew ibuprofen wasn't going to be good for me, and it was going to cause me problems later. But if I didn't take it, my symptoms were going to be just so horrible, I couldn't stick with it. So I had to do what I had to do. It took 4 to 6 a day, and then finally taper it off after a couple months. Of course, and later on, that developed into what I really learned what happened. AS is actually an umbrella disease. Doctors come in and they say, you have Ankylosing Spondylitis, but they don't know specifically where it's coming from. For me, I had a colonoscopy that was done on 11/19 of 2012, and during that, I was determined I had irritable bowel syndrome, Crohn's disease, and ulcerative colitis. Yeah. But to be honest, I was glad to hear I had something that was specific, because now we can treat that. So what I'm doing now is I'm on a modified specific carbohydrate diet. I have low pesticides, eat organically, no grains, bread, or flour. I have specific medicine that helps me out. I use prednisone for anti-inflammatories, which I'm happy to say I'm almost done, needing to take that now. I still have, and I also take this other medicine called Acetyl HD, which is actually healing the system itself. So, besides that, everybody knows I'm notorious with sticking with the system, and I use this thing called WeFit Plus. It allows me to do yoga exercise. Hey, it works awesome. You can say what you want, but it measures and it gives you quantified data, and it allows me to do my yoga and my stretching exercises every morning. I swim 3 times a week, and I tell you, if I don't go 2 days without swimming, I feel it. I really do. And I alternate that with going to the gym and doing this device called the Power Plate, which I can explain at a different time. But it's like going to the gym, and it's less impactful on the body. I still have the major issues with stiffness. I still wake up 2 to 3 times a night. And I still have the irritable bowel syndrome, Crohn's, and ulcerative colitis. But I also am taking certain holistic medicines here. Like, for example, over here, I've got these doTERRA oils, which I'll explain afterwards. They've helped me out with getting off of prednisone. And then I take this one here called, this is Water Keeper. And again, I know that I got to cut this short, but basically Water Keeper is probiotics in its most natural form. And so it's great. $20 kit lasts you the rest of your life. It's a lot less expensive. It works well. I love it. So to back everything up, I started off with Emerald, $2,000 a month, had to shoot my leg. Sucked. Moved on and only took care of the symptoms. Now, I know specifically what I need to take care of. I have the medicine to take care of. I have the medicine holistically to take care of it. I have the exercises. I have all these layers of things that are actually truly healing my body right now. It's not a guessing game. It's not going to just jump anywhere. It's going to be gone. It is. I will be in remission very soon. I'm here already. It just needs to happen here. So I want to thank you all for the time that you've listened to me today. And if you have any questions, I'm game.